This card was probably my clear #1 favorite out of all 30 of them. For this video, I'm just going to be going over my favorite cards from Team Affinity Season 3 in the comments section. If you could only choose one, if for some reason they only let you choose one of the 30 cards, which one would you choose? Which division would you choose? I think I'm gonna just start talking about the West and then the Central, and we'll probably end on the East. I really wanted to get a gameplay video today, but I think tomorrow's video we'll kind of talk about it, and you'll probably see why we don't have any gameplay today. But let's just go ahead, start out with their boss pack. These were 97 overalls again. So for me, I feel like any starting pitcher I'm probably not going to use too often. You do have guys though like Vita Blue, right? 113 hits per 9. That's pretty solid. 118 pitching clutch. A little bit lower with somebody like Jake PV, 104. And then Hyunjin Ryu, 92 hits per 9. 115 pitching clutch, but 92 hits per 9, 68 velo. I just don't think I'm really going to be using any of these starting pitchers. Now, from the National League West, I enjoyed Jake Lamb and David Dahl. I liked both of their swings. Jake Lamb was a beast back in Battle Royale, his live series like MLB 16, 17 days. And a card like this is kind of the theme with most of the cards. There are a few where I think I would actually use them in ranked seasons, but somebody like Jake Lamb, probably not going to use him in ranked, except maybe, you know, platooning with somebody, pinch hitting versus righties. But I still might choose somebody with even max contact versus righties, not just 113 and 118 for the righty stuff. David Dahl, a little bit more balanced, especially in terms of contact. I really was enjoying him. He's one of the few guys I got to parallel to and was one of my favorite cards to grind with. And I would say David Dahl probably my #1 from the National League West. #2, Jake Lamb. And then I don't really see myself using any of the starting pitchers, but probably Vita over Jake and then Jake over Ryu. And that's the National League West. And now for the American League West, J.R. Richard, kind of same thing, right? I don't see myself using a ton of these starting pitchers, especially when they only have 4 pitches. That's just usually not my thing. But for the starting pitchers we did get, 115 hits per 9, max velo, max break, pretty solid card right there. Liam Hendricks, the relievers usually play a bit better when they're 97s. 109 hits per 9, 118 clutch, 99 break for him. I've never used his cards a ton in the past. I don't really see myself using him either. And I would say out of this division, let me just see how much I used him. Tommy La Stella, not much. His swing felt decent, but I was really playing versus the CPU. We had Mitch Haniger. I didn't use him a ton, but when we did, 4 homers and 6 hits versus CPU. But I would say by far my #1 card from this division, Joey Gallo. 97 Joey Gallo, max power versus each side. A little bit of reverse splits, which I find pretty nice with lefties. I feel more comfortable versus righties anyways, and having the extra contact versus lefties is honestly a big thing for me when it comes to left-handed hitters. Great arm in the outfield, 55 speed. You could put him at first or third. At third, he's still going to have that good arm, 85 fielding, 86 reaction. And so far, I would say this is probably my #1 guy. Out of the ones we've gone over, I used him quite a bit grinding versus the CPU. I always like Joey Gallo cards, and having a 97 is pretty nice. And right now, I would say Joey Gallo from the AL West and David Dahl from the NL West are kind of the only 2 guys out of the ones we've gone over that I'd probably see myself using in ranked seasons and actually maybe being competitive for me. Now, the National League Central, probably one of my favorite divisions in terms of grinding out for, because they didn't have any pitchers. I like using the hitters a little bit better with the 200 parallel XP. And I would say from the National League Central, Josh Bell. I just always enjoy Josh Bell cards. I wish he was a little bit better versus lefties, but playing first base or the DH, he was one of my guys that was paralleled too. His swing was feeling good. That 120 clutch, especially as a switch hitter, is huge. He's one of the guys. Maybe I would say Josh Bell, probably my favorite from the NL Central. And Jesus Aguilar, I've never liked his swing in MLB The Show. I didn't even bother doing his mission. Maybe I should give him a try this year, but in previous years, I always struggled with him. Jesse Winker's swing feels good, but he's going to be another guy kind of like Jake Lamb, where because of that contact, probably only going to be using him off the bench or versus right-handed pitching. He does have 120 clutch, though, if you have him in and there's a lefty on the mound and you got guys in scoring position. So having that clutch is pretty nice. Chris Bryant, I love his swing in MLB The Show. I really enjoy using his cards with the contact, you know, the power's there, but the contact, I just don't know if I see myself using him over somebody like Chipper Jones as a wild card, right? There's definitely other options I might see myself using, but out of all the Team Affinity cards, he was one of my more liked cards, one of my favorites. I would say probably second place for me in this division. If Jesse Winker had a little bit better just overall contact versus lefties, maybe it might be him for second, but I like both of those guys. Ryan Ludwig, his swing felt pretty good. I'm just going to have to use this card a little bit more. As y'all can see, it wasn't a huge sample size, all versus the CPU. But I guess since everybody's a 97, just comparing this division to all the others, this was one of my more liked divisions from Team Affinity 3. And since they're all 97s, you know, I think the hitters were some of my favorites for a division. Josh Bell, Chris Bryant, Jesse Winker, Ryan Ludwig all really felt solid. And Jesus Aguilar, on paper, looking pretty solid with that 115 clutch. I just didn't use them. I haven't liked his swing in other years. But NL Central, probably my #1 division right now. I think I would probably take Joey Gallo over Josh Bell, but Josh Bell might be my #2 card right now. It might be Gallo #1, Bell #2, and David Dahl #3. But I was also really liking the Chris Bryant. He might be competing for third. Max Scherzer, 76 velo, 102 hits per 9, 99 break, good pitch selection. I just don't think I would actually really use him in ranked seasons. Only pitcher for the AL Central. Larry Doby, his swing felt good, but I didn't use him that much. And it's all versus the CPU, but his swing was feeling real nice. Paul Konerko, I find to be usually an underrated card. I'm somebody who likes using him. I don't think I'm going to use this version of Paul Konerko in ranked seasons, but as far as Team Affinity goes, I liked him. I would say for this division, Torrey Hunter was probably my favorite. Just having the speed, the defense, the power, and some decent contact. I would say he was my #1. Hard for me to find a catcher I like sometimes. I always like Salvi swing. Out of this division, probably #2. Konerko and Doby, 3 and 4. But, you know, one is an outfielder. One is a first baseman. It's hard to compare them. And then I just don't really see myself using probably any of the pitchers, at least so far, from Team Affinity 3. But none of these guys probably breaking into my top 3 out of the cards that we've seen so far. I think it's still Gallo #1, and then Josh Bell 2, then maybe Chris Bryant or David Dahl #3. And then for the American League East, I've actually forgotten a little bit about this division. Who's in here? I know we had Gary Sanchez. Gary Sanchez was probably the guy I used the most from this division. His swing was feeling really good. 103, 102 contact with 114 clutch, and then having that 98 arm strength at catcher. I wish the fielding was a bit better, but it's a home run derby card. I wasn't expecting too much. I would say out of this division, Gary Sanchez, pretty clear #1, but a close second would be Jonathan Scope. Jonathan Scope has a great swing for me in MLB The Show. It was feeling like that with this card. Wish the power was maybe a bit better versus righties. It'd be nice to see 110 there as well, but I think that'd be more like a 99 overall at that point, especially with some decent fielding, 91 reaction. But Jonathan Scope was one of my favorites. I really like the Gary Sanchez. I just used him, I think, a bit more than Jonathan Scope. And Charlie Morton probably in last. I just don't really see myself, like I said, using any of these starting pitchers from the Team Affinity. I did use him a decent amount. The CPU struggled versus his 12-6 curve. And then Jim Rice, Troy Gloss, didn't use either of them a ton. Troy Gloss, his swing always feels powerful in previous years. I would imagine it's going to be pretty similar this year. Jim Rice, on paper, looking really solid. 63 speed in the outfield, some decent fielding. Over 100 for both contact and power versus each side. I just didn't use this card. He was the one that I unlocked last from the division, and I didn't use the Jim Rice. And then the National League East final division, and this is where my favorite card from all of Team Affinity 3 comes from. They had a couple pitchers. Mike Soroka, I don't know if I use him. Yeah, I did not use this card. The pitch selection looks solid. 106 hits per 9, but, you know, 82 control, 83 velo. Haven't tried this card, not even versus the CPU, so nothing really to say. Noah Syndergaard, I had a hard time locating, even though it says 82 control. I don't know, I had a hard time locating with this guy, even versus the CPU, but didn't use him a ton either. Raul Ibanez, his swing felt so good. I think he's technically a new legend this year. Not a ton of at-bats even versus the CPU, but his swing was feeling really good. I'm excited to use this card some more. He felt powerful. And then Trey Turner, I like any version of Trey Turner. I used him a ton. And with that 110, 125 contact, 99 speed, 125 clutch. Power, 8391, a little bit lower. I think he's viable in ranked seasons. I have Derek Jeter. I have some other options, stuff like that. But if you really enjoy Trey Turner cards, I think he's good enough to be used in ranked seasons, even on Legend Hall of Fame difficulties. So I really like this card. Maybe in my top 3 overall. It's hard to say, just having Joey Gallo. But my number 1 overall card from Team Affinity 3, this D Gordon. Max contact versus each side, max clutch, great fielding, max speed, max stealing, second base, short, left, center field. If you do want to throw him in the outfield, he's going to be able to do that. 99 bunting, 99 drag bunting. Like, this is just an insane card besides the power. And D Gordon is somebody where if you're playing at the right ballpark, if you're pulling the ball with him, he's still going to hit for a little bit of pop. I can show you my stats versus the CPU. You can see the slugging at 1224, 11 homers, 15 doubles, 7 triples for him. Like, this versus CPU, obviously it's going to be inflated, but I don't know. His swing felt good. I've used other D Gordon cards this year, and his swing, for whatever reason, in MLB 23 has been one of my favorites, especially for a contact hitter. But if you haven't tried this card and you're doing these team affinities, this D Gordon card was probably my clear number 1 favorite out of all 30 of them.